25, 40, run, William, run! He's got blockers in front, 5, touchdown! Joshua Cribbs! Snap back, ball down, kick block! They block the kick!
This is the Oranges, Orange or Browns podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. I'm your host, Chase Smith, and today we have a very special show. Jeremy, one of our co-hosts, could not join us today. We couldn't quite get our schedules worked out with his high school football commitments. Best of luck to you this weekend, buddy. But we are still joined by your favorite Emmy-nominated digital content producer at News Channel 5, Camryn Justice. Camryn, how pumped are you for Steelers week?
It's the best week of the year. There's 2 weeks like this.
Yeah.
When the Browns play the Steelers in Cleveland and when the Browns play the Steelers in Pittsburgh. And normally when it's in Pittsburgh, I'm like, oh man, this isn't going to be the best week, but it's still, it's rivalry football. So it's always fun, but this feels different.
It does. I got butterflies, and at least I know the Browns fans feel that way. We'll find out soon. Here to help us preview the big game, you can listen to him. Now listen to this intro. You can listen to him on the Extra Points Podcast Network, -3 with Shaq and Schwartz, the Extra Points Podcast with Cousin Sal and Charlotte Wild, or maybe you've heard or seen him on the NFL Network, a Jimmy Kimmel Live, or I don't know, a little small podcast called the Adam Carolla Podcast. He's a huge Steelers fan. He's Dave Dameshek. Dave, thank you for venturing into Browns territory and joining the show.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and I'm especially on such a big week there for the people of Cleveland.
Yeah, we're gonna.
I know. It's. I just like. I don't want to start off on the wrong foot here, but I know 2020's been weird temporarily. It's hard to tell what day it is, but I make it clear. It's only mid-October, everybody. This ain't the Super Bowl. It's just a regular season game. It ain't that big a deal. But all right, for you guys, it is. All right, let's talk.
We'll touch on the rivalry here in a few moments. Usually in our preview shows, Dave, Camryn gives us 3 keys. I figured since you're with us, it'd be fun to maybe alternate. So you're still gonna give us 3 keys, Camryn. But I want maybe Camryn, you give one. We'll talk about it, and then Dave give one, and we'll go from there. So Camryn, your keys to the game, if we want to come away with a victory against Dave's Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right. The number 1 key is going to be probably the hardest for the Browns to do. And it's really going to come down to whether or not the Browns can establish their run game. The Steelers have one of the best, if not the best pass or rushing defense. It's crazy how good they are at stopping the run. Kareem Hunt has a challenge on his hands. The Browns need to establish that, especially considering Baker Mayfield might be not 100%. I mean, he's supposed to be pretty healthy, but he got banged up last week. And, they've been taking it easy. He's been limited. But he's still sore. There's no doubt in my mind that he is going to play. He's obviously going to play, but how fresh is he going to be? How much is that rib injury, that side injury? How much is that going to bother him? Do you really want to rely on his arm to win the game? Probably not this week. Probably not the week to do that.
I love that excuse is already in the works. I love that.
It's not an excuse. It's just something that's like it worries me. It worries me because we already are hesitant about relying heavily on Baker Mayfield throwing the ball because that's not the identity of the Browns. So to do that while coming off a week where he was injured, had to get X-rays, he's not practicing fully. You don't really want that to be the week where he's like put in that position solely, but it's probably going to come down to that. So if the Browns can establish the run game, Kareem Hunt can be hot early. And then, that next man up mentality that they've been doing with Dearness Johnson, Dontrell Hilliard getting in the mix, maybe some extra playmakers in there. You saw Odell run the ball. They've been doing that. Jarvis Landry could run the ball, like doing things like that. I think it's going to be pretty crucial to establish that run game early, but it will be tough.
Dave, are you worried about our run game? Are you concerned about the number 1 rushing offense in the NFL?
Yeah, the Steelers have done a pretty good job to this point of stopping runs. The Myles Sanders long one notwithstanding last Sunday in Heinz Field, because that's atypical for this defense. What they've kind of settled into is very 21st century kind of style. People in Pittsburgh pine, a giant percentage of Pittsburghers pine understandably for the 70s and even beyond the Steel Curtain days, the Blitzburgh days in the mid 90s, and then the Super Bowl winning team in 08. And so, people identify in Pittsburgh with shutdown defenses. The issue is in the 21st century, there's really no such thing. You don't keep teams to 9 points a game anymore or anything like that. It's about, as they say, keeping it all in front of you. Minkah Fitzpatrick is a great ball hawk back end defender with that speed and everything. And so the Steelers are kind of inclined to force their foes to extend their offensive drives. The more snaps another offense is taking against them, the more likely it is that one of their ball hawking kind of defenders, 21st century style, is going to force one of those turnovers. So to answer your question, yeah, you guys have been mighty on the ground. That's certainly the premise of your success so far. The Steelers are more concerned about Odell running behind them in all likelihood. But to the original point, yeah, that they are predicated through the generations, kind of when the Steelers defenses have been good, you don't run on them. That's the first point. Turn the other team two-dimensional, and then with the pass rush and, like I say, the back end speed that the Steelers have now, forcing into passing situations and hopefully getting Baker to throw the ball a tick more quickly than he wants to, and hopefully picking it off on the back end.
Yeah, and I do think there is this like aura of intimidation that comes with playing Pittsburgh, at least with Cleveland. We're going to talk about your success against us here in a little bit, but there is this, like, it seems like just this extra like veracity and this extra like anger and edge that your defenders have always had playing against us. And it'll be interesting to see if these last couple of years the tide isn't starting to, shift. I think last year was really, really intriguing. Dave, I mean, the Browns kicked their ass in Cleveland. I mean, it was just a butt whoop. And you guys ended our season. You helped us fire Kitchen, so thank you for that. Actually, any postseason aspirations we had, you guys took away in Pittsburgh. And so I don't know if the Steelers players don't want that to shift, or they don't like seeing that the Browns have talent. I think this game in Pittsburgh is going to be really telling of both teams, right? You guys are a soft 4-0. The Browns are 4-1. Are the Browns for real? Are the Steelers are they really that good? It's going to be really fun. And so Dave, you think making the Browns two-dimensional was that the key? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I think for the defense, that's what the Steelers are supposed to be. And I also think there are a lot of people on the other side of the state line from where you guys are that are wringing their hands right now. 4-0. I don't know when Pittsburgh sports fans got to be so spoiled like Boston sports fans, but I don't care for this sort of like, but the defense isn't dominating enough. Hey, everybody, 4-0 is 4-0, and yep. I'll take it. And by the way, if Pittsburgh, this one is a kind of a big one, as much as it can be a big game in week 6 and everything. If Pittsburgh wins this one and they get to 5-0, nobody knows that they're even going to certainly play 16 games. So sure. As many wins as they can stack up now, because I suspect, and this isn't just, glass half full thinking from a Steelers fan, perennially offenses win the first chunk of an NFL season. Offenses have the offensive coordinators have the offseason to scheme up these things that no one's ever seen before. Then the defensive coordinators get enough tape on that stuff. They begin to react, and the talented defenses kind of make their big impact come, Thanksgiving on. And so I think that if the Steelers can get past the Browns in this one, and then they have Tennessee, and then they have the Ravens, this is kind of like a big stretch for them where they can really, there are 7 spots this year. And I think to jump to the end of the novel, I think that there's a pretty good chance, if you look at the way the AFC is shaping up, that both our teams are going to wind up in the postseason. So that's good. But I mean, the Steelers also rightly at this point, at least, are thinking, maybe we can get the number 1 seed. And they, as it stands, they have a better record than the Chiefs and anybody else right now. So, and with that head to head with Tennessee coming up. But yeah, I think that's the key defensively for Pittsburgh. And then, Roethlisberger attacking in the pass game. We should have more weapons than you have bodies to cover up the weapons that are kind of emerging here, especially if Deontay Johnson is back out there this weekend.
Yep. Camryn, your second key to the game, I'm sure stopping Roethlisberger has to be somewhere 2 or 3.
So it's 3. We won't get ahead of ourselves. The second one is, it's kind of goes along with the first one. But instead of, it's not just, establishing the run game and the Browns offensive weapons, it's the Browns offensive line. They have to really, really play well. Jedrick Wills, Jack Conklin, they've got to step up. It's going to be a really tough matchup for them. And I think this is probably going to be one of Jed's hardest matchups of his, short career. So offensive line has to really step up, protect Baker Mayfield. Like we said, he is coming off that injury. You don't want him to get banged up, especially against the Steelers defense. They will get in there. They will eat him alive if you let them. So, you get Baker Mayfield banged up too many times, couple sacks, and that's gonna scramble him. And especially, like we said, if they can't establish that run game, he's going to have to throw. And you don't want to get him scrambled when early on or at any point in the game. Mm-hmm. So a good solid offensive line performance is going to be crucial. It will be interesting to see if Wyatt Teller can play. He is day by day, week by week, right now with that calf injury. So, but the Browns should be confident because they have Chris Hubbard, who deserves a lot of praise for what he's been able to do, filling in every position that he's been asked to.
Thought we would say that in 2020.
I know. I'm telling you, I don't think anyone expected it.
No.
And I don't think anyone expected it the way that he's been able to do it. So even if Wyatt Teller can't play, or there, another guy goes down, that can't be a reason for shoddy offensive line play. They've got to be able to step up. And you got to be confident that Hubbard is able to do that. He's done it well so far. And the more he plays and the more you plug him in, the more experience he has, which means the better he should be and be able to do that for them.
Obviously, Dave, the concern here is TJ Watt. Let's talk about TJ versus Myles. There have been comparisons online of who's better. Dave, I want to get your perspective. I know you love the Steelers. Your backdrop on this call is just like this incredible Steelers memorabilia of stuff. I don't want to say it's cool stuff. It looks cool, but Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. Let's talk about that. We have last year playing into this. Is TJ Watt better than Myles Garrett, Dave Dameshek?
Oh man, I mean, better. They're both at the top of the list, and it's kind of like the LeBron Jordan thing. I mean, to a lesser degree, obviously. I'm not calling either one the greatest defender in pro football history, but they're both tracking pretty good so far in their careers. You mentioned the stuff behind me, by the way. I like the Browns' new old get-ups. Congratulations on the retro look. They look good, but I think we can agree that ultimately the Steelers win, at minimum, the uniform matchup, right? We don't have to debate
No
that.
comment.
I can't.
You talk about
it will be a cool rivalry look, old school. What year is this on the field? And anytime that happens, Bears, like this is, you have a couple handful of teams that just look like football. And
I always say that. That's exactly right. Especially when the sky gets that gray over it and everything. Really, I mean, it would not suit Southern California. The Chargers' new look, people are like, oh, that powder blue, that's not a football. Well, yeah, it wouldn't go over in Cleveland, but you know what? The brown and orange wouldn't go over in LA either. It's so quintessentially Rust Belt when the Steelers black and gold goes against the brown and orange.
Beautiful,
it really is beautiful to someone who has an eye out for pigskin.
I love how you changed the conversation from Myles and TJ, because you know deep down that Myles is head and shoulders above. You know,
I would say, how many interceptions does Myles Garrett have? That's how about that pushback? If we're talking about range of the ability to fill the stat sheet out, TJ's got him on that front at minimum, right?
Yes, he does have an interception.
And practically the thing that he has is Bud Dupree on the other side. Myles Garrett has some help. They can generate a pass rush, but it's about 95. And I think if the Steelers control him, it's weird to me, though. I sincerely, I think it's so weird, this whole like do it for Myles thing. Like, why? How did he become the martyr in this? You know, I don't get the whole rally behind and do it for him and all this kind of stuff. He's awesome. Obviously, he's dominant, and I do the thing that'll give me nightmares until kickoff and until the game is over is the fear of seeing 95 collapse his full weight on number 7. But Roethlisberger gets hurt because often, at least, because he resists getting taken to the ground. He doesn't just, he doesn't flop down.
He's one of the best at it. He is.
But he gets hurt sometimes doing that, though. He tries to resist the pressure and hurts a knee getting pulled down to the ground or whatever. I think that, and by the way, I mean, that would be one of my points as well, is can they control Myles Garrett? If they can handle him and keep him off 7's back, I think that the offense has a chance to thrive.
Look, this is uncharted territory for the Browns. Not only are we actually good this year and we're living up to what we thought we could do, but having a game changer on defense. For decades, the Browns looked under their bed for players like Troy Polamalu or James Harrison. They terrorized the Browns and they just controlled the game. And I can't remember. I mean, since the 90s, I don't even know a player we've had on a team like Myles Garrett that can really change a game and has changed every game that we've played so far. And to hear someone from a rival say like 95 is legitimately terrifying, I just think that speaks to the quality of the team we have now. And it, I think both players can change the game. TJ Watt, incredible playmaker, very athletic. Myles, very strong, very fast. And this is going to be a game where, if you love watching those D-line, O-line battles, this is going to be for you. If you love, I think it's going to have everything. I think we have offenses that can score, defenses that can get to the quarterback. It's just going to be this is going to be a new era football game. And they gave us Nance and Romo. They gave us the A-team at 1:00. So the league.
I know. What greater compliment. Yeah. The 1 p.m. game. That's the game. That's high praise, I guess, for what they consider this matchup to be. I do have to say though, quickly, I heard the word rivalry floated.
Mm-hmm.
Are we?
Well, not yet.
Aren't we jumping a couple of steps here? Rivalry.
We are.
Rivalry is like when two evenly matched foes go head to head, every so often, every year or twice a year, whatever. And then one side beats one and then the other side beats the other and everything. And that doesn't really describe the Super Bowl era between the Browns and Steelers, does it?
Camryn, he's right.
On paper, but not in our heart.
That is so true. And you throw in
I'll accept it.
Molotov cocktail, and it didn't take long or much, I feel like.
Here's my question for you guys, though, for real. I asked this. I was just talking with Mark Sessler on -3 about this. He's a Browns fan as well, and we did a deep dive.
He was on the show a couple weeks ago. He joined our
podcast. Oh, is that right?
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, he's a sweetheart. Yeah, he's great. And we were, we reveled in memories of Hanford Dixon and Frank Minifield and how cool they were. Those two guys predate you guys watching them, I'm sure, but maybe you've seen some cool images of what those guys were. And I empathized because John Elway's caused my team some pain over the years too. Mm-hmm. The horrible back-to-back stretch against John Elway and all that. I do really though wonder, why do Browns fans seem to dislike the Steelers at least as much, if not more, than the Ravens? You understand the Ravens came in and just took your team and they moved them to Baltimore and then won Super Bowls. Well, Ozzie Newsome he got the icon of Cleveland, moved over to Baltimore and he's the greatest GM of the 21st century for Baltimore. You don't get any of that. When they were taking your franchise, shutting it down, Steelers fans carried around billboards and tried to support you guys. I don't understand the disdain you guys have for us.
I think honestly, because obviously Browns fans don't like Ravens either, but you're correct. There isn't that same level of hatred or disdain. But I think for me personally, game aside, I think it's locational too. You're so close. It's an hour and a half drive. You just go to Pittsburgh. You just drive over there. You can drive over here. It's a little bit different driving to Cincinnati, a little bit different driving to, Baltimore. So you can like be in the mix, and there's a ton of Steelers fans in Cleveland every week when you're not in a pandemic. There's a ton of Browns fans at Heinz Field every week that they play in Pittsburgh because it's so close. And I feel like maybe that has a lot to do with how much just staying there is for each other because we're right next door.
Well, I think
you raw. Go ahead. Please.
I was going to say, I think proximity plays a huge role. I think also the fact that they are close. I think you see families where you'll have grandparents that are Browns fans and the son or daughter's a Steelers fan because of all your the Steelers' recent success. And so now you have families going at it. This rivalry, or you say rivalry, this feels like an old school, just so innocent, football rivalry. Just hey, we're just going to be two teams that we're just going to not like each other. I feel like with the Ravens, it's personal. We would, if you were to be at a playground, we would make jokes about the Ravens mama, not the Steelers mama. If that makes any sense, we would cross every line with the Ravens just because that's, what they did was just so unforgivable. I think it's different with the Steelers. There is this baseline respect, and it's just fun to have
well, may I throw out my hypothesis?
Yes.
I think deep down, if I may psychoanalyze you as the personification of the Browns fans.
Oh boy.
I think that your issues with Steelers fans, ultimately, the person to blame is the man in the mirror. Because you understand as an Ohio representative that two of the key figures in the Steelers Super Bowl era dominance are one, Chuck Noll, and two, Ben Roethlisberger. You could have had either one of them. But Chuck Noll played for Paul Brown. You let him move to Pittsburgh. Ben Roethlisberger was right there for the Cleveland Browns to draft. You guys decided you needed Kellen Winslow Jr. more. I think ultimately you're upset with yourselves. And I think
jealousy.
You try to take it out on us.
Yeah, I think
I also say that's a make good because I don't know why in that state. I feel for you because and you mentioned the people that I think are right are just about equidistant are Youngstown, Ohio.
That is young. It's the belt right there.
Right. And I know it's kind of split, and I always feel bad. It must be kind of like being born in New York and being like, oh, I'm 6 years old. I like the Mets uniforms. I'm going to be a fan of them. And then for the rest of your life, you're like, what have I done? What have I done to myself? Imagine being in Youngstown and being like, I'm going to go with the Browns. Mm-hmm. Same thing. Now listen, I like to have my fun with the Browns fan. I do. Sure. I feel for you. I do feel for that. Like I said,
we don't want your pity. We don't want your
the
pity.
Elway base.
Get out of here.
I get it. No, I'm rooting for you.
I want to have
you
this conversation very soon. Very soon, it's going to be turned around. We're going to have you back on, and I'm going to tell you, I am so sorry what you are going through right now. It just must be so tough to be you.
I know. What will I do? I'll just have to grab one of those Lombardi trophies and wrap myself up in a terrible towel and just and relive the past glories, I guess. But yeah, no, I'm fascinated. I do think it's weird though, and I have I've talked with city officials about this, state officials in Pennsylvania. I don't understand why the thing that you have going for you in that state, at least in the 19th century, and how you guys became relevant industrially and in commerce, is the Ohio River that runs through the state. Of course,
it's owned by West Virginia, by the way.
What's that?
It's owned by West Virginia.
Owned? Is that true? Owned?
Mm-hmm.
They
yeah.
own
So
it.
I grew up in West Virginia, and you cross the river. The "Welcome to Ohio" sign is right when you get on Ohio land, and the West Virginia is the moment you touch the river.
No way!
Yeah,
I had no.
True,
see,
yeah.
This is fascinating. I contend. Where's the Ohio River form though? It forms when the Allegheny converges with the Monongahela. Where does that happen? In downtown Pittsburgh. Why do you get to put your name on our river? I want it back. I want to call it the Steel Curtain River. I want to call it the Mean Joe River.
Yeah.
In exchange, though, you did give us Chaz Noll and Ben Roethlisberger. I'm gonna be magnanimous here and call it a wash.
I feel like my 8th grade West Virginia history teacher would be very upset I did not answer where the Ohio River's formed, because that rings a bell for sure. So that's
my next call.
Just to Dave's point,
tell on you.
This is the we're meeting. So the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers are meeting. We've only had 3 games over 500 since 1994 when you face each other. To Dave's point about what kind of rivalry is this? Big Ben is tied with the record for most wins in the First Energy Stadium. We've seen that record. He's tied with Baker Mayfield. This is Ben's record against the Browns since he's came into the league: 22-2-1. Unbelievable. I don't think it's ever going to be replicated by anyone. I mean, maybe Tom Brady. He might even beat Tom Brady's record of some of these.
It is weird, that he doesn't own any of those teams. I guess he stuck around long enough in New England that he saw the Bills get a little good, and the Jets have a couple years of being okay, and the Dolphins. I guess that's what really offsets it versus you guys have been flatlined for the 21st century until this season, I guess.
One of 5 quarterbacks with 15 or plus starts and a 900 win percentage against a single opponent since 1950. Just completely owned us.
Could have been yours, Could have been
have
yours.
Every right to say what rivalry. I don't think now, though. I think now that it's getting to be interesting. Now the Browns, we have a competent coach. We have a lot of young talent where we need to be. And it might have taken 3 regimes for us to get there, but we're finally here.
3? What are you talking about? How many regimes have there been since you were born anew?
Myles, Baker,
I got you.
That stuff.
I got you. Yeah, listen, it goes way back for me. I remember as a wee child. Here's how old I am. I went to back-to-back overtime games in Three River Stadium in 78 and 79. And the only thing I remember the game-winning plays. That's the only thing I remember from either one of those games because I was a little kid there with my old man. But in 78, Terry Bradshaw takes a flea flicker from Rocky Bly or Lynn Swan. I forget which guy pitched it back to him through a touchdown pass to win the game 15-9, the only touchdown of the whole game. And then the following year, rookie Matt Barr, who later kicked for the Browns, kicked the game winner as overtime clock expired to win it 33-10. I've been with it a long time. I was also there when Bud Carson and company came in and embarrassed the Steelers. And I do remember, to your point, about how much it means to Browns fans and how they'll travel to Pittsburgh. I remember at 51-3 just how excited the Browns fans were. There was a little section of them as Steelers fans scratched their head asking, what in the hell is happening? We're not just getting whipped. We're getting whipped by the Browns, the Cleveland Browns. And the fans were going crazy, the little section of it. So I know it means the world to you. But it is this is a big spot for the Browns. And I wonder if they maybe are going to overhype themselves. The Steelers are doing this kind of businessman's approach, like just another game on the schedule. You guys are like, this is the most important event in the history of people. That can get in your brain too much,
I think the players, though, are doing a good job. They have, had some comments, but overall, I think the players have done a very good job, mostly controlled by Kevin Stefanski, of trying to keep this this is a one game. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, because that is how the Browns get ahead of themselves. They get over eager, they get too hype, and then they shoot themselves in the foot. So I do think there has been some comments here and there, like this one's for Myles, where it's like, all right, calm down maybe a little bit. Let's not get too hype. But for the most part, I think they're doing a pretty good job of keeping this as it's another week. If the next game is the most important one, but you know that there are those feelings there, and that's what let's dial it back a little bit.
Well, the swing of it, and listen, 16 games. Let's assume they play the full slate and everything else. You guys already have dropped one to Baltimore. You got whipped at that by them in week 1. Pittsburgh right now looks good with a victory. They can kind of push the Browns back as a presumed wild card team, but not likely to win the division if you give them 2 L's at this point in the division race. However, if you guys win this one, all of a sudden now Pittsburgh is in a kind of a tough spot, not something that they can overcome, but all of a sudden they would have a home loss to the Browns. We assume Cleveland's going to have fans in its stadium by the time they play again. And at that point, the Browns, you would have to figure, would be favorite. If they beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, then the Browns are going to be the team are going to be the favorite team by the time they rematch and everything. So in a smallish way, but not completely insignificant, if you guys win this one, it will put the Steelers in a spot where it's like, we're kind of tracking for third place, and we'll have to go to the playoffs and make some hay there. I don't want to ascribe all that to what might happen in January, but there is make no mistake, to your point. Yes, there are legitimate implications for January and what happens on Sunday here.
I don't even want to think what Twitter is going to be like if the Browns do win. And Browns Twitter is just like
it's gonna be messy. Oh, it's gonna be messy. They're not gonna hold back. Gosh. It's gonna be a madhouse.
Oh my gosh, Camryn, your third point, your third key to the game. If we want to cause this whole internet 2020 meltdown on Sunday afternoon.
So my third key, we kind of talked about it. So I'm gonna kind of pull in another, like a half key, because the third key was Myles Garrett being disruptive. We've talked about how disruptive he is and what kind of threat he poses, the pressures that he can put on the quarterback, the way that his pass rush is incredible. He's been doing that. So, but we talked about that. So I want to go to another point. It's a little bit more fun. My third key is going to be Cody Parkey continuing his perfection, because I think that this game might be close. I think that they both won it really bad. Like, the stakes are high, like we were talking about. And over the last 10 years, the Browns have had 3 matchups with the Steelers that have come down to a field goal, whether it's in overtime or, And one of them ended in a tie not that long ago. And that was not fun. And it ended in a tie because we could not kick a field goal. So if it comes down to that, you can't miss extra points. You can't miss field goals. You got to take points where you can get them. And Cody Parkey has been perfect so far this season. And it's not what anyone expected. I think everyone was a little nervous when they got rid of Austin Seibert and then brought in Cody Double Doink Parkey. Everyone was a little nervous about it. But he's really shown that, okay, he's consistent. He's doing this thing. And the only time that he missed was it was offside. It was a block field goal that resulted in 2 points for the Browns. It was nice. So it doesn't count against his record. He's still perfect. So my key is, it's not just Cody Parkey. It's mostly Cody Parkey, but special teams, especially Cody Parkey, really stepping up, making sure you get your points where you can get them, not giving up stupid points on the special team side. On a kickoff, you can't have, don't miss plays like that. Don't give up points where you don't need to give up points, and get all of the points that you can on the board, because every single one will count this week.
Yep. Counterpoint. A grown-up name. It really, I don't know if Cody counts as one. I mean, it's cute for a baby. Like, oh, what's his name? Little Cody, cute little boy. A grown man? Come on. I don't know about that. How much faith am I supposed to put in that? I hear your noise, though. You're right. Can't give up any of those points. I'm with you. I got a 23-20 Pittsburgh, another close one. And for the record, Chris Boswell missed a kick before TJ Watt blocked your kick at the end of overtime. So we could have won that game. That's when I knew things were sideways that year, when Boswell missed a kick after having not missed a kick pretty much the entire preceding season.
Well, let's take a quick break. We'll come back with the game preview with Dave Dameshek and Camryn Justice.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. We read one book a month and then we talk about it. Books like Stephen King's The Shining or Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. If you're on the hunt for book recommendations and enjoy sparkling conversation, come read along with us and then listen in.
I'm Dennis Maniloff, co-host along with the roadman Kenny Rhoda of the Next Man Up podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. Roadman and I do a deep dive into Browns, Indians, Cavs, Ohio State, and anything else that's on the sports fan's mind.
Hey, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. Using a narrative storytelling approach, the Hyman Podcast was created to start conversations that need to be human. Week by week, I'll break down walls and barriers and make people wildly uncomfortable, all the while giving a voice to the voiceless and the marginalized. Consider this your personal invitation to be part of that conversation.
All right, we're back. Here's the game preview. Then we're going to jump to narratives. Sunday, 1 p.m. kickoff at Heinz Field. We have the A-team, Nance Romo, on the call. Steelers are a soft 4-0. Browns an unbelievable 4-1. The Browns first in the league in rushing, 24th in passing, 11th total offense. The Steelers first in the league in total defense. The second straight week, the Browns have played the number one defense. Dave, the Steelers on offense, 26 total. 26 passing, 16th rush. This is all from NFL.com. Browns 23rd total D. The line, the Steelers started favored by 3.5, moved to 3. Dave, is that a fair line?
If we assume, as they do, that the home team gets 3 points, they're saying these two teams is pretty even. Mm-hmm. I would give the emotional edge. Sincerely, I would give it to Pittsburgh because I feel like this chip on the shoulder thing works sometimes, but I don't want it from the QB consistently. And practically, I feel like you guys should be knocked a little bit for the what you mentioned. Obviously, it's not a small matter that your quarterback has banged up ribs, and obviously the Steelers do one of the things they do as well, if not better than anybody in the league, is rush the passer. They're going to bang on Baker a little bit, and if, like I said earlier, if they can get him the attrition of taking a couple of shots over the course of the game, if they get to late third quarter and beyond, and he's getting a little bit skittish about the licks he's taken, and obviously that's going to favor Pittsburgh to be able to force a turnover. So I think it's listen, respect. I think there's a chance that you guys could win the game, and I agree that it'll be a close one.
So just for people who don't understand lines and moving, when the line moves down, that means a lot of public are putting money on the Browns that they like them. Correct. I just want to make sure people understand who don't understand gambling. It's like Camryn's one of them. Camryn's like, I don't understand lines. I don't do any of that.
I didn't say I don't understand them. I say I don't give into them because I don't like to lose money on sports, but it makes it really stressful, and it's already stressful. I don't like to put my money on the line.
Well, I'll plug it. I don't care. I'm shameless. I'm a shill. Go to FanDuel.com/-3, and whichever side you want to come down on, I got the Steelers, but why don't you take the Browns?
Boom.
If you want to make it a little more interesting, go ahead. If you're confident the Browns are going to do it, I encourage you.
I would love to. It's still illegal in Ohio. I don't know how long that's going to last. But listen to this here. Number one overall picks are 10-21 versus Mike Tomlin as his head coach. I think it's going to be an incredible game. Let's jump to narratives. Camryn, what are some narratives you could see come from this game when it's 0-0-0 in the fourth quarter?
Honestly, if he has a game, if he shows up and is explosive against the Steelers, I think one of the narratives will be the track that Myles Garrett is on to win Defensive Player of the Year. I think that's when people start to really talk about him actually winning the award. We've talked about how, disruptive he's been and how much of a game changer he is for the Browns. But I think if he has a disruptive game against the Steelers and really shows up, one, because the narratives of last season coming into it with all that hype feeding into it. But if he shows up, I think that and fills the stat sheet out, but also the extra stats that you don't see on the paper, the pressures, and like doing crazy things if he gets an interception and, goes against the Steelers records there on their stat sheets. I think that's when you start to see the national media, not just local media, really start to pick up on, okay, this guy he's in the conversation legitimately, and he's probably leading the conversation. So that's a narrative I think that could come depending on how he plays.
Dave, what narratives do you see could come from this game come Sunday afternoon, Monday morning?
Well, first of all, I'm casting my vote now and forever for Pittsburgh native, by the way, Aaron Donald for Defensive Player of the Year, since he's in fact the actual best defensive player. But yes, maybe Myles Garrett or TJ Watt will rack up enough sacks to steal it in 2020. Either way, I do hear you about that. If you guys win the game and he's a factor in it, I mean, it's kind of one of those self-perpetuating things. The camera cutaways all game are going to be about Myles Garrett and to Mason Rudolph. Never will we see a backup QB, the headset cut away to over the course of 3 hours more than we will on Sunday with Mason Rudolph to get his reaction shots.
What's your over-under cutaways?
It's a good question. I'm going to go
6.5. What would you give 6.5?
Oh, I'm going over that. I was thinking in the range of 7.5, 8. So yeah, so I'm going to take the over on that one. That's a fun question. I think that the narrative, if Pittsburgh wins, is a pretty straightforward one, and it's that Roethlisberger continues to own his home state. I think listen, what football coach ever says that they don't want to establish the run and all that kind of stuff. But it's important to the Steelers that they do that. But the difference in this game potentially is Roethlisberger attacking your banged up secondary and surviving 95 long enough to be able to do it. So if the Steelers win and he can throw a couple of touchdown passes, that will be the story coming out. 23-2 now.
Yeah. I think this game, I think it does carry a lot of weight. And for this reason, I think the Steelers have more to lose this week than the Browns. I think if the Browns lose, one narrative you might see is Browns not quite there. Oh, it's okay. Right. The Browns, they're not quite there. But if the Steelers lose, I think, man, is Ben Roethlisberger too old? Like, they hadn't really beat anyone before. The Browns, I think the Steelers just have way more to lose. And if the Browns do lose, I think it's going to be way more forgiving. It's in Pittsburgh. And so I don't know if this is going to be like a sneak up game where the Pittsburgh, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm really fascinated to see it, but I think one narrative we could see is Browns not quite there yet. The Steelers are the measuring stick of consistency and success in the AFC North, and they're still where the Browns are trying to be. But I think if the Steelers lose, I think they have way more to lose in this game this week than the Browns.
I hear you. I'll pull off the Band-Aid I'll spare you any jive. To me, at my advanced age, I'd love to see Lombardi come to town this year. I'd love for the Chiefs and Ravens and otherwise to fall aside and see the Steelers get back to another Super Bowl and win it in the twilight of Roethlisberger's career and all that. But really what I root for, my baseline is at this point to maintain dominance over the two Ohio teams. I really, as long as you guys don't catch up to us, as long as we remind you periodically, as you get super excited about things, as long as you remember, like, yeah, but you ain't the Steelers. If I can come away from a football season saying that, listen, they're in this weirdo 2020 year with everything turned upside down, the Steelers over the Browns provide us all with a sense of normalcy.
Of course, you look at the division. There's 3 Heisman winners the past 3 years, and you still have Roethlisberger. I was surprised the Steelers didn't take the Packers route and draft a quarterback to try to motivate Ben like they did Aaron Rodgers. Honestly,
he's only 38 though. I know Rodgers is younger than that. They really do think that he's. I mean, they don't think he's about to hang it up. Maybe if if they win the Super Bowl this year, I guess I wouldn't be stunned. If he hung it up. But then again, I would also think he might be motivated to see if he could catch Bradshaw and win a 4th one.
I would be stunned if any of that comes true.
But I also think I also think a lot. Well, I mean, listen, I think the bottom line is the Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. That's the end of the story for me in the AFC. But I feel like I hear you about that, and that's the instinct you can tell of a lot of GMs out there is we got to get the next guy in line here. Rodgers is getting old or whomever we're talking about. I think GMs have not caught up yet fully to the reality that QBs are now growing on trees. I mean, they're like, it's not what it was. Forget 1990. It's not 2013 anymore. I mean, like, there are so many QBs in the pipeline coming out of school every year now. There are 2 to 5 guys every year coming out of the college ranks. Jameis Winston is a backup in New Orleans right now. Marcus Mariota is a backup in Vegas. Cam Newton got signed 11 minutes before week 1 kicked off. There are more good QBs than there are slots for them. That just has never been true in the NFL. So I kind of dig that the Steelers didn't do that. And by the way, I wonder if the Packers fans, and I know they are already doing it, no matter how far they go, if they do anything less than win the Super Bowl, people are going to be asking retroactively, what if we would have drafted a receiver in the first round? What if we had drafted a weapon for Rodgers instead of drafting his backup? What was the point of that? People will wring their hands over that unless the Packers win the Super Bowl.
Not to mention all the rules favor quarterbacks, which
right.
breed longevity. Camryn, bold prediction time. Now, Dave, this segment gets a little wonky because we don't like mediocre predictions or what might happen. We want bold, like, let's just go crazy. I predicted 5 sacks last week for Myles Garrett. I was pumped. He got like 2. So Camryn, bold predictions. Let's hear it. Bold prediction time.
Oh man. See, I never go bold enough.
You don't. No.
You tell me I don't go bold enough.
Yeah.
because my bold prediction was gonna be a game winner field goal from Cody Parkey, 55 yards out.
55, and I'll give you a 55-yarder in Pittsburgh
bold
for
enough?
the win. Yeah, I think that is
Okay.
bold enough. 55-yard game winner in Pittsburgh. The Browns missed one, and like the last time they had a pressure kick like that in the playoffs, I think like an 04 or something. When we played you guys the wild card, or I don't know, it was something. Anyway, Dave,
I would think you would have better recall for the playoff games, given there have only been one of them in the last 70 years
Guys
or whatever it's meant.
beat us. Yeah, that was a rough game. Dave, a bold prediction. Let's hear a Steelers bold prediction for Sunday 1 p.m.
I don't even know if it counts that much as a bold prediction at this point, given that he keeps doing it week after week. But how about I'll go with Chase Claypool, Mapletron, with a touchdown over 50 yards.
Does
that count as bold? That's
no,
pretty
because I
good.
think it's going to have. What if we do another multiple touchdown game?
Don't put pressure on me. I'm not here to answer your and then fail and be wrong about that.
But
You see, I don't know. I'm not like Odell. I'm not like the Odell's Browns, where like it only counts for half if I didn't contribute directly to the victory. We're in Pittsburgh in 2020. We ain't about stats no more. We AB and Le'Veon Bell and all that, they're gone. What we want is the W, man. And I don't care how we get it done. You know what? You want me to match that? All right. Not Cody, not the grown man named Cody.
Stop.
Chris Boswell provides the difference with a 50+ yarder and redeems himself for missing that week 1 kick 2 seasons ago.
We'll do both. Claypool over 50 plus a 50-yarder. You do the 50 for 50 bold prediction.
Okay.
That's good. No, Claypool's magnificent. I loved him coming out of college, and who develops talent better, Pittsburgh receivers or Cleveland Indians pitchers? I think
that's
it's
a good one.
Like hand in hand.
That's a conversation for another time. I have a whole list of the best position groups by franchise in North American sports history. I'm trying to think if Cleveland shows up. I'm not being wise. I'm not sure if Cleveland shows up anywhere on there. Packers have the best QBs. I mean, the Packers they obviously had Bart Starr and Brett Favre, and Don Majkowski wasn't too bad as a transition guy. And now Aaron Rodgers. It's gross already how many good QBs they've had. Indians pitchers, though, that's a strong one. Yeah, Feller and
I think
Bauer
as well.
Yeah, right.
And in the 90s, they had a pretty good run. I don't know. Browns, Jim Brown, I think weights that a lot, and depending on how good Chubb and Hunt become, and they had a couple. They had the
Mac. Yeah. No, listen, Kevin Mack and of course.
So I think the conversation. I don't know if they're number one. Here's my bold prediction: Kareem Hunt, 175 yards on the ground, 50 in the air. He's just going to shred the Steelers. That's the face of the bold prediction segment. That's the face. That's what happens. That's what happens every week. Kareem Hunt grew up outside of Cleveland. He knows what this means. He knows how the Browns haven't had a lot of success against the Steelers. He's the one kind of stirring the pot with, hey, this is for Myles. He's the one who has a lot to gain with Chubb being gone. He signed that 3-year kind of mini extension. Hunt 175 on the ground, 50 in the air. 225 all-purpose yards. You're going to have nightmares of Kareem Hunt for multiple reasons, but mostly for on the football field. Come Sunday afternoon. Dave, let's plug some things for you, man. Where could we listen to more of you if anyone wanted to?
Well, I would think that people would be most intrigued by the most recent episode of -3, where you can find anywhere you find your podcast. Track that one down. We talked to the aforementioned Mark Sessler, deep dive on some Browns and Steelers lore. There we give our game picks and then extra points thrice weekly. With Cousin Sal and Charlotte Wilder. It's always a good time, and we'll be giving out our picks there. But this has been a great time as well.
We really appreciate you coming on. Camryn, final thoughts for this week?
Listen, my final thoughts are just, I am so ready for this week to be over. And then, listen, I'm coming. I'm inviting you back here. We're going to have this conversation, but the opposite way. I'm going to be telling you how great the Browns are and how we are in a new era, and the terrible towel that you could throw that away. You don't even need it anymore.
That's good stuff. Dave, again, thank you so much. Camryn, thank you. And thank you for listening. We will catch you guys on our recap show next week. Go Browns, baby!